Welcome back to the Live Like Jesus podcast, where we are striving to live like Jesus lived so that we can do what Jesus did. With me, as always, is Pastor John.
Hey, everybody.
Yep. And back again is Lindsay.
Hello.
Yep.
Lindsay, welcome back.
Yes.
We're so glad. So last week, as we kind of get into this, we introduced a concept that goes really well with spiritual formation and the idea of living like Jesus. It's a concept that sort of almost feels a little foundational. Like it something to help the whole process. And that concept is mind renewal. And like, how do we renew our minds, as Paul said in Romans 12, and kind of the role that it plays in our eventual spiritual formation. And we only barely touched on the how, like what do you actually do? And we mostly discussed the what and the why. But today we're going to actually get into some of the how. How do we put this? How can we make this concept a part of our daily habits so that we can live each day with a renewed mind? Because that's our goal, is to have that clarity like we talked about on the last episode. If you missed that episode, please go back and watch it, because there's some nuggets in there about clarity and what the Lord gives us versus what the world gives us that I think is really important for you to kind of think about. And so let's dive really into some practical daily habits that can help us renew our minds. And so, Lindsay, I want you to start us off as the lady and the mother on the podcast today. We know how busy you guys are.
Yes.
Juggling tons of different things, everything that you have to do. What are some small but maybe really impactful spiritual practices that you have in place to help you?
Well, I mean, again, it sounds very foundational, but there's always an open line between me and God throughout the day. So there's always an open line of conversation. But first thing, like I said in the last episode, this always comes first thing in the morning. It wasn't always like that for me. But for me, I found that it works the best whenever I start my day off reading the word. And then also spending some time in prayer in the morning. And it kind of helps get my mind too in the right place, because I'll be honest, like, I love my family. I love Eric. I love the kids, but
here it comes.
But they can test my last nerve like nobody else. And so if I start my morning off in prayer, and prayer specifically for them and for myself, it helps just get my mind in the right place to encounter them.
Toward them.
To encounter them. Yes.
And it's done before they wake up.
Hey, if you're a mom listening, why don't you comment that you can relate to that sentiment?
So, and it's crazy because I love them, but man.
No, I think that's pretty normal. What do you actually do in your Bible study? Like, do you have a program? Do you have a process?
I do. Whenever, so like I mentioned, and I probably said it wrong in the last episode, but I said it was forced upon me. It was encouraged to me.
Sure.
With my
spurred along.
With my last small group, and they, I think they actually learned from you the here journaling, and then Bubba and Brandy passed that on to our group. And whenever COVID hit, they challenged all of us to start doing this. And this was the way that we were in community with each other, even while not being face to face, but we would journal and share with each other just to keep, just pushing each other. So I do the here journaling method in the morning time.
Cool.
It's the one that works the best.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the here journaling method, especially during our Bible episodes. And so you can go back and listen to those. They've been the past few episodes before these. Bryan, what are some things that you do, some practical kind of daily things, or some things that you've seen work really well for people?
So for me, what works really well is I get up early. I love my family too. And but I just get up early, So, but I get up, and the first thing I do is I run. That's the first thing I do is run. And while I'm running on the treadmill, I'm listening to, I use the Dwell app, and highly recommend that. And I listen to the Bible reading for that day, kind of taking mental notes of things that I want to look back at later once I get off of the treadmill. And so from there, some days, not every day, I'll journal, either be a here journal or another, the James Method journal. And so either one of those I'll do, depending on where I am and kind of what it is that I sense I need to do that day.
Okay.
So I don't think we say it every single episode. I think it bears repeating every single episode is all of this starts. The first step is Bible saturation.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the first step. You can't get away from that at any point. That's what the Holy Spirit, his word is what the Holy Spirit uses to bring clarity and renewal to our lives. So you can't renew your life, your mind. You can't really renew anything without being saturated with God's word as much as possible.
Yeah, we talked about the mind's eye last episode and how it's almost like a silent voice. If you're not saturated with the word, that silent voice might be saying the wrong things.
Well, it might be.
It will be saying the wrong things.
At least in my life, I have found it definitely
it will be saying the wrong things. And so I think, that point is one that we can't overstate. It's very, very important. You mentioned the James method. I don't know if we've mentioned that in depth on these episodes. You want to tell us a little bit about what that is?
So again, none of these things are original with me or us, but they're helpful. So you can type and find the James method, but I'll just explain it real quick. So just like the here journaling, you pick one particular verse. It takes 2 pieces of paper, if you got a journal, lay it out flat, and then kind of in the top left, make a circle and write the verse for that day. And then highlight any key words that you see. I like to highlight verbs. I don't know. That's just for me.
Gotcha.
I like verbs. So I highlight those or underline them. And then using an app, Blue Letter Bible, something along those lines, go look up the original meaning of those words from the original language. And then, so you've got a circle right here, and then from those words that you do, draw lines out and write that definition over here. Put it in, and then put a box around it. Okay, so that's what the word originally meant. And a lot of times it's going to be you'll see the translators were very, very good and very close. Then you kind of cut the page in half, draw a line across the page here, and then split it down in half. So you draw a line across and then draw a line down from that line across. To the left, you write who, what, and when, and why. So it's who wrote this, when did he write this, why did he write it, and just kind of write those. Say, what was his motivation? What was he, for Paul, every single one of his letters had something that spurred him to write it. Now over here to the right at the bottom of your first page, if you wrote up at the top, let's say you wrote the ESV, we'll go look at what does NLT say? What does NIV say? Or you want to go old school, what does King James say? So, and just write those out. There's a lot of writing, but it's that repetition. Repetition is how you get saturated with this stuff. And you're going to keep writing. Okay, so then you come to the top of the next page and you do cross-reference. Okay. All right. Now this, you're going to need either a Bible that has cross-references or, again, an app like the Blue Letter. I think it's Blue Letter Bible. You just hit cross-reference and it'll give you a ton of cross-references. And so you just kind of read through those, just asking the Lord, which one of these is really bringing clarity for what you're speaking to me this day? And then write those out, 2 or 3 of them, right? Draw another line halfway. And now it's time for, what does all of this mean? Sure. So you explain, this is where it goes right back to here journal. You do the E, A, and R. You do the ear of here journaling. Explain it, apply it, respond with a prayer. Okay. It's so, it takes more time than the simple here journaling. Sure. Because there's more study to it. There's more things to look up. So it's not something to do every day, but it is something to do a few times a week, a couple times a week.
I think that's a great point. And I think some people might even wonder sometimes, should I do a little more on this day? Or and that's a great way to go a little further even with just it. Maybe,
if you work a Monday through Friday job, which I know not everybody in our context, of course, does, but your day off, it's like, okay, I can do it that day.
Yeah, sure.
Because instead of taking however long, the James method, just to be honest with you, I can't do it in any less than like 45 minutes.
Gotcha.
So
it's a little bit of a session.
It's a little bit of a time.
But that's okay. That's good. And I think there's a lot of different things that we've talked about over this series on like what you can do to interact with the word. The key is that you're interacting with the word. You are reading it, you are responding to it, and whether it be through the Here Journal, through the James method, through just a read and react method, where what's your one main takeaway from that passage. Maybe that's where you start, and none of this is like you have to do this. This is all some options for you to think about,
Yeah.
and I think that that's very important for us to see. So we know the Bible is the core, it is the foundation, it is the start of anything that we're talking about. But if I think about one of the other habits that I would imagine probably goes a long way for mind renewal, the one that comes to my mind almost immediately, there's two. One is Sabbath and one is silence and solitude. And so how have you guys, because we tend to be in a community and in a culture that has a lot of A-type, give me a list of things to do, I'll make it happen. Sabbath and solitude is almost in the face of that. It's almost like we're going against the culture. We're going against how we were raised even to do that. So how have you guys instituted, and either one of you can go first, instituted either silence and solitude or Sabbath as one of your habits that you do?
Living like Jesus can seem impossible at times. So we've created a free guide for you. Just go to the link in the description and you'll get a free guide to help you take your next steps in living like Jesus. Also, while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe.
I guess I'm going first.
Sure. That's fine.
Eye contact. So I am not an A-type person.
Okay.
Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah, that's good.
An A-type person. I crave silence and solitude.
Great.
And so for me, it's definitely something that I naturally seek out, and I'm not necessarily able to do it every day. I try to, specifically in the morning time, but that's whenever I'm reading the Word, and so my mind's focused on the Word. But whenever I'm just completely silenced and only connecting with Him without reading, or without being focused on what I'm journaling about or what my other thoughts are, but just sitting in silence and just letting whatever comes to me come. I daily try to seek that out. You
feel like that's brought renewal to you as you've...
Yes, because don't get me wrong, and don't take me the wrong way, because this is huge. As we talked about in the last, but completely letting your mind be quiet, and only focusing on whatever the Spirit is wanting to lead you to. Like the things that come up that you don't even realize is there, it just, that offers a whole other level kind of clarity, because it's not so much just what my mind's worried on, what's coming in the day, what's coming the next day, but I'm letting all that kind of go away, and I'm not trying to keep my head above water anymore, and I'm just letting myself sink, and just see where He takes me, and that, the things that come to me in those moments, they're so sweet and they're so personal, so it's a huge thing.
It's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
How about you?
So, first of all, I would say you again, silence and solitude, that's where we become self-aware. I think the reason many of us are not self-aware, the reason many of us are not self-aware is because we're on this from the moment we wake up till the moment I put it on my nightstand to go to sleep.
If you're just listening, he's holding up a cell phone.
Holding up a cell phone, yeah. So, but it's that constant of anytime we're got nothing to do, yank out that phone. What does social media say? Mm-hmm. Those are the small little moments that we can capture. And then, of course, taking longer times. And again, we can say all the time, absolutely nobody has time for this. That's right. Absolutely nobody does. We got to say it. You have to make the time for this. We all make time for the things that we think are vitally important to our lives. All of us do that. I mean, we make time to eat. None of us really has time to do that, according to the way we kind of feel at times. Sure. But we make time for it. Right. None of us really has time to spend with our family, my wife and my kids, and but we make the time for it because we know it's important. And this is the same way. You've got to carve it out and say stop. Especially that Sabbath, and you can intermingle and do them together, silence, solitude, and Sabbath. But you got to carve it out, and then you got to protect it as best you can.
Yeah, if you're on this journey of living like Jesus through these 9 habits, especially if you're at the beginning, it's going to be about some adjustments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've talked about that, how this is not about adding, but this is about changing.
That's right.
Yes.
So you don't.
Yeah.
We're not just saying add more stuff to your life. Nobody's got room to add more stuff, but you do. So you're going to have to displace some things, you know,
Yeah.
and that's going to take some soul searching. And I get that. That's why this is a journey and it takes time.
Absolutely.
And something somebody told me that helped me is they requested for me to take out the word can't, because like I would always they would offer me a solution. I'd be like, well, I can't because I have this, you know. And so we'll just take out the word can't, because you can. It's just that you're choosing not to.
You won't.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that has everything to do with me,
Yeah.
nothing else. I'm the only one that's keeping myself from actually saying I can, you know? And so, and that has helped me a lot. Like, I can. It's just I'm choosing not to, so then I can't.
First time I ever heard that, you shared that with me.
Yeah,
We were talking about like schedules and how to prioritize time,
yeah,
which I struggle with.
I think most people do.
Yeah.
It's hard.
yeah.
But I mean, I think those are great insights, and there's many more. If you have something that you do, drop it in the comments. It could be something that could help everybody else that's listening or watching this. And so these small, consistent practices can make such a huge difference in our lives. But as we all know, sticking to these things, sticking to these habits can sometimes get difficult. And we just sort of broach that subject on the, I don't have time, I can't do this, all that type of stuff. That's an excuse. That's a thing that all of us have said and some are still saying. And so there are obstacles that come up. There are obstacles that get made. Without going into the can't or the don't, how do you overcome some of these obstacles or some of these distractions that might get in the way of you instituting some of these habits that we've talked about?
Well, I think you got to identify what is a distraction. So we learned this, when we read Emotionally Healthy Leadership by Pete Scazzaro, great book.
Great book.
But he talked about all of us have things, you know, Lindsay, you've got them as parents. We all three have them as husbands and a wife. There are things that I have to do. I have to do these things. I can't not do them. If there's something that I say, I can't do that, it's because over here on this list, I can't do silence and solitude at that time because I have to do something for my child or have to do something with or for my wife.
Yeah.
So you have to identify the have tos, then identify the like tos, and then sometimes those are a lot more flexible than we like to want to admit. And then there's be honest here and put down the don't really need these things at all, but I do them all the time.
Yes.
Those are the distractions.
Yeah.
It's that third column.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, watching TV, watching social media,
Scrolling.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, our thumb muscles, they are so
We
strong.
have the strongest thumb muscles in the history of mankind.
That's right. So, or even, that's right.
I mean, think about it. All of us are sitting here
Never
doing this
considered
all
that.
day, even more than like the gamers.
Absolutely. And I know this sounds crazy in our culture, but we just coming out of football season. Listen, I like to watch LSU.
Yeah.
It's not a have to.
Right.
So I like to though.
Yeah.
So it's not over here of like I really don't ever need to do this.
No, yeah, it's not.
But there
that
are
far
some of
yet.
these things like I don't ever really need to check and see what social media is saying.
So that's probably a good
Exactly.
thing. Like if we're gonna overcome distractions, we need to know what an actual distraction.
That's
is.
the point. Is over here these need tos or don't ever need these. That's a distraction. Some of our like to dos can be a distraction, or they can be flexed out into another spot in our lives.
Yeah. What do you do to overcome some of the obstacles that might get in your way?
Just like Bryan was saying, it is kind of like having to make a priority list.
Sure.
And it is kind of having to just, and Bo said it before too, it's like making an appointment that you consider important, like a doctor's appointment that they'll boot you off if you don't make it.
Sure.
But it's like making that kind of an appointment or appointment with your spouse. It's the same kind of appointment that you make for yourself to spend time with God in the Word, and then just to have an open communication with Him. And so for me, I guess that has become more of a habit now.
Yeah.
But before it was not. And it was a constant, okay, this week I'm going to do better. Tomorrow I'm going to do better. The next minute I will do better.
I'm going to send my journals in my group chat.
And so it's a constant not feeling defeated, not feeling like, gosh, I'm terrible at this. But, and you've preached about it too, but it's never too late to choose to make a different choice.
That's right.
And so you can choose how your day is going to look at any given moment. And if you feel like it's going down the wrong direction, choose to make a different choice,
yes.
And just move, let your mind go differently.
Sometimes it's that simple.
It is. It is like you're not
choice.
stuck.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I get bogged down at is I feel like I'm stuck, but I'm not. I'm not stuck.
You may not be where you want to be, but you aren't stuck.
No, like make a different choice.
The enemy wants to make us feel like we're stuck in quicksand and that we don't have other choices.
Yeah.
That our life is so busy that we can't do anything else, that sort of thing. And I have felt all those feelings.
Yeah.
Well, and I would, Lindsay, you mentioned this in the last episode of the reason we're not stuck is because the Lord is with us always.
Yes.
He meets us. He's with us where we are, not where we wish to be, not where we hope I'll get to one day. And he's like, okay, I'll wait for you to get over here, and then we'll pick it back up and carry on. No, he's with me right in this day is terrible moment. You know.
So I'm learning a lot from both of you over the last couple of episodes, and one of the main things that I just learned or heard from y'all is it's intentionality. Mm-hmm. It's a plan. It's a I'm doing this on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
The truth, the unfortunate truth, is we're not going to stumble into a thriving, growing relationship with Jesus in a clear mind.
No, because
in a renewed mind.
Our default is the
Is
opposite.
the other way.
Yeah. So it takes, and we've said all this stuff. So it takes a vision. A vision is new ideas, new images. It takes intention. I'm going to intend to do these things. And then the action, which, the habits, open my Bible and read it.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
And intake it.
One of the hardest things is when we try to do a lot of this stuff on our own.
Yeah.
And we try to act like I got this, or I don't need people in my life. I'm tough enough to do this on my own, that sort of thing. I think that's for everybody, but I think men have a tendency to be a little bit further down that road. But community and accountability go a long way with us growing in these areas of our lives. And so, Bryan, how do you see it as being a part of a church community or a small group? How can that help someone stay committed to these practices that we're talking about, these habits?
Well, first of all, hopefully somebody's going to ask you, and none of us like to be put in that position of like, no. I mean, most of us don't like that. So somebody's going to ask you. But the other thing we talked about, or that you need to keep in mind, is everything about, maybe not everything, but most of the things about following Christ is to turn me into a person who loves other people. You can't do that by yourself. Yeah. And so I do not know where my mind needs to be renewed without being around other people and figuring and seeing this is where I reacted or this is where I thought something.
Yes.
You can't be self-aware by yourself. You just can't. You need brothers and sisters.
You need
in
the
Christ.
mirror of other people.
Yeah, you do. And you need other people to come into your life and sort of like do the things, live their life with you, to see like how did I respond to this? I mean,
why did that trigger me so much?
I mean, Jesus, listen, he had some rough characters that he dealt with every single day. And he did it on purpose, did it intentionally, not only to share the gospel with them, of course, but he demonstrated and showed it is possible to always respond with love and kindness, no matter what's happening. I mean, my goodness, forgive them for they know not what they do.
Sure, even then.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsay, I know you are in a small group. Y'all actually host and all that, right? And lead and everything?
Yes.
Yeah. So how has small group played a role in your spiritual growth when it comes to this? Well,
I mean, the biggest credit that I can give small group is their constant persistence. Because you need people that are going to do that in their love for you doesn't mind putting a finger on the things that they know you need to talk about.
Gotcha.
You know, because a lot of people don't. Like, a lot of people will say hi and how are you doing? Great, you know, but like people that you really do life with, you know, depending on how you say great, they'd be like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just, I think we joined small group shortly and after we got married in 2019, and the transformation for both me and Eric was, I can't explain
It's
it.
hard to even.
It is, you know, just like they were the ones that got me and taught me how to actually read this. You know, I can never be more thankful.
Yeah.
So.
And now you're leading one.
Yeah. Yes, I got pushed out the nest, but it's been good. It's been good. But it's just, you know, and you know, some of God's biggest mic drop moments for me have come from people that I do community with that speak life into me and will, you know, speak out of their spirit to me about just what God's doing in their life, you know, and it's just, it's encouraging, and it is like a lifeline. You know?
Yeah. And you don't get that from casual relationships.
No, not at all. You know, because naturally, I think we all put on some really good airs, you know, with a smile, you know, because I'm a half glass half full kind of person, you know.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
you know, so so I think that we're all really good at just putting on a smile and going about the day. But to have people that you know that you can trust and in striving for the same life that you are, that you can have some really deep conversations with.
And as they get to know you more and more, they can see through the cracks in that fake smile.
Yes.
So like it just becomes this thing. Like, I lived most of my life not committed to community and small group.
Yeah.
But the last 7 or 8 years that I have been life-changing.
It has been. And, you know, and I just want to say real quick, because that scares some people.
Oh, sure.
It does. But, you know, it scared me too. And it was something that I kind of like had the Heisman up over. I was just like, I don't want to do that, you know, but that was really just my own flesh being scared of how people were going to respond, you know, and then also work of Satan in my life too, trying to keep me pushing things under the rug and not let them out in the surface. But the freedom that came from letting go of that and being vulnerable and actually being willing to be seen and known, it was exactly what I needed, like the first 35 years of my life.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it just, it really is amazing the lies that we operate in, that until we step out of our comfort zone and do the very thing that we really don't want to do, we realize like the more that is there, you know, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
The freedom that comes.
When you were talking, what I kind of heard, you know, when you're talking about, I don't want to do that. That was a protection. Like,
Yes.
It's a protection at that point.
That's 100%.
And when it comes to a group, I think all of us need someone like this in our life, if not in our small group. Somebody like our friend Bubba, who will look at you and say, "What are you running from?"
Mm-hmm.
And then just stare at you until you answer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
all of us need someone like that, if not himself.
Yes.
Many people know him, but you all of us need somebody who will ask us that question.
Yeah.
It's so true. And you know, as we think about this, our hope and our prayer for all of you that are listening and watching is that you would have that community, and it's not going to come naturally. So find it, you know, be intentional about finding your community and the people that you can do life with, so that you can experience some of what we're talking about here, because it plays such a huge role. Lindsay, you just mentioned persistence. And so Bryan, I want to come to you as we kind of close out our episode today. I know for a lot of us, it can feel frustrating. Like, this is taking longer than I wanted it to take. And it's not I don't see the progress that I wish I was seeing and that sort of thing. And persistence from others leads to persistence in ourselves. How do you encourage somebody who feels like, I don't want to be persistent, I don't want to persevere through all this, I just kind of want to give up because it's not happening?
Well, first I would ask you, well, what's your vision for your life? Like, what do you want to be? Are you happy with what you are now?
Right.
So, I mean, if that's true, then I'm not sure what to say at that point. But most of the time, most of us like, well, I mean, this is good, but there's some other things I would like to see change. So, well, like, what's a vision for your life then? Who is it that you want to be? What do you want? What do you want your kids to say when they're standing over your casket and they don't lie?
Yeah.
What do you want them to say at that point?
Yeah.
And honor you in the life that you lived. So, basically, what's the vision? And because if you don't have that, then it'll just feel like what am I doing here? It's just like every day, this, that, and the other. And it's not, where is it going? I don't know if we're created to have this just like I'm doing this stuff for no meaning whatsoever, like going nowhere. No, I think that's the importance of vision. Without vision, the people perish. And I know a lot of pastors use that to cast vision, but it's just as important as an individual.
That's right.
What do you want your life to be? And once you have that makes, for me at least, that makes all of these little moments, because that's our life. We talk about it's just a little thing. Yeah, well, the little things are our life. It's like, that's all of it, every single bit of it.
It all adds up to it.
It all adds up. Those little moments are life at the end of it all. So what do I want that to look like? And just taking those little moments, it's, a slow faith in the same direction over time.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And we're in a microwave society, so we want
That's not
everything
gonna
quicker,
happen.
but
Yeah.
it doesn't happen that way.
No.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason it's called fruit of the Spirit. It takes time to develop and cultivate fruit.
Yeah.
And that's, really all this live like Jesus. How are you going to see that? Love, peace, patience, kindness, self-control, gentleness, faithfulness. And I'm missing some in there. I can never
you
get them
might have
all
got
in
them
there.
all.
But anyway, that's the point. That's what it's going to look like, are those fruit of the Spirit.
And it's going to be in those moments that we talked about on the last episode.
Yep.
That's when you're going to see it. And so even if you feel a little discouraged that it's not happening as quick, the Lord is at work. Even when you can't see it, Jesus is working in your life if you're opening your life up to him, because he is a change agent. And so it's encouraging to me to think about my renewal as a lifelong journey. It's something that I'm doing from here on out.
Well, and don't forget, where are you on the spiritual journey map that we talked about several episodes back? If you're in that stage 4 questions, or you're in the wall, it's going to feel like a dark night of the soul, as it's called. You're going to have to, at that point, it's like, even though it doesn't make sense right now, I'm going to stick with what made sense in the light, because right now it's in the dark.
I love it. Well, thank y'all so much. This has been an incredible conversation. I want to tell you, if you're listening and you liked what you heard, or you got something out of it, why don't you comment your main takeaway from our episode today, and maybe share it with your friends and let them watch the Live Like Jesus podcast. We're so glad that you're joining us, and we can't wait to see you next time.
So living like Jesus isn't something that comes naturally to us. And so we all need help in doing that. So we've created a free guide to help you out. Just click on the link in the description for you to take your next steps to live like Jesus.